Welcome, Chosen One. Before we dive in, let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to those of you who have supported this mission through your generous super thanks. Your kindness and faith make it possible for this message to reach those who need it most. May you be blessed abundantly for your generosity. Now, let's talk about something truly fascinating. They looked at you and assumed you were naive, a mere bystander, an easy target, someone they could manipulate, deceive, or discard without consequence. But oh, how wrong they were. See, they mistook your silence for weakness, your patience for ignorance, and your kindness for gullibility. But the truth? You were never a pawn in their game. You were the architect of your own destiny, simply waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the real power within you. It's almost amusing, isn't it? How often do people make the mistake of underestimating those who walk with divine wisdom? The Bible is filled with stories of those who were counted out too soon, only for God to raise them up in ways that left their doubters speechless. Think of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, cast aside as if his dreams meant nothing, and yet, in time, he ascended to a position of power that placed those very brothers at his mercy. What they meant for harm, God turned into victory. And now, Chosen One, your moment of revelation has come. Those who misjudged you, who plotted against you, who believed you would crumble, now they are the ones left scrambling, trying to understand how you turned the tables so effortlessly. So tell me, can you feel the shift? Can you sense the power that has always been within you, now fully awakened? If this resonates with you, declare it boldly. Type 999 in the comments below, and let the world know that you're not just chosen, but empowered, because this is just the beginning, and the truth of your rise is about to unfold. God's chosen ones, they did this thinking you were naive, but you showed them who's the boss. Number 1. Your silence made them bold, but your comeback shut their whole operation down. Chosen One, they believed your silence was proof of weakness. They thought you were blind to their schemes, too passive to notice the betrayal unfolding around you. Their arrogance convinced them that you were incapable of standing up, that you lacked the wisdom to see through their deceit. But they were wrong. Silence isn't weakness. It's a tool of strategy. While they plotted and schemed, you observed every move, every whisper, every act of arrogance. You saw the masks they wore and the overconfidence in their steps, yet you said nothing. Why? Because patience holds more power than they could ever understand. Why is silence often misinterpreted as surrender? Think back to the story of Jesus before his accusers in Matthew 26:60-63. When questioned and provoked, he remained silent, demonstrating his authority through composure. That silence wasn't passive, it was a statement of strength. In the same way, your quietness wasn't ignorance, it was preparation. While they mocked your lack of response, you observed every detail. Every deceitful word, every underhanded action became a piece of the puzzle you were putting together. They thought you weren't paying attention, but in truth, you were preparing. This quiet strategy often confuses those who operate out of arrogance. They mistake patience for weakness, unaware that those who wait often see the clearest path to victory. Why do people, like Joseph's brothers in Genesis 37, so often confuse quiet endurance with defeat? They sold Joseph into slavery, thinking his silence and absence meant the end of his dreams. But Joseph's silence hid his resilience, and his patience led him to a position of power in Egypt. When his brothers stood before him, they realized too late that the one they betrayed had risen far above them. Your story mirrors his in so many ways. When the moment to act finally came, it was not through noise or dramatic gestures. One precise move was enough to dismantle everything they had built against you. Their smug confidence evaporated, replaced by disbelief and confusion. They thought they were in control, but their arrogance blinded them to the reality that you had quietly outmaneuvered them. This irony often plays out when arrogance meets wisdom. The very silence they mocked became the weapon that left them speechless. David's encounter with Saul in 1 Samuel 24 illustrates this truth so clearly. Saul, consumed by envy, relentlessly pursued David. Instead of retaliating, David waited. When the opportunity presented itself, David spared Saul's life, proving that true strength doesn't need to shout. His actions spoke louder than words ever could. Like David, your patience allowed you to dismantle their illusion of power with grace and wisdom. Now, they are left scrambling, trying to piece together how everything fell apart. They're stunned, unable to comprehend how the person they dismissed as naive turned out to be the one who outsmarted them entirely. This is the consequence of underestimating someone who knows the power of silence and timing. The question now is what comes next. With their schemes exposed and their confidence shattered, how will you continue to rise above their expectations? Every step forward you take will solidify the truth. You were never weak, never blind, and never clueless. You were always the one in control, and they never even realized it. Number 2, you didn't just survive. They're traps. You turned them into stepping stones. Chosen one, they tried everything in their power to stop you. They laid traps, threw obstacles in your way, and created challenges they were certain would break you. Every roadblock they designed was meant to halt your progress, to make you doubt yourself, to force you into submission. But they didn't understand who they were dealing with. You didn't just survive their traps. You turned every single one of them into a stepping stone toward your greatness. Why do people assume obstacles can stop the determined? Look at the story of Joseph. His brothers believed selling him into slavery would erase his dreams, but it became the very path that elevated him to power in Egypt. Genesis 50:20. Just like Joseph, the challenges you faced didn't break you. They built you. Every trap they set only strengthened your resolve, sharpened your skills, and prepared you for a level of success they could never have anticipated. When they tried to close doors in your face, what did you do? You didn't waste time begging for entry or waiting for approval. Instead, you built your own path. While they laughed, convinced the detours they forced upon you would wear you down, you quietly rose higher and stronger. Every dismissive word, every condescending look, they thought it was breaking your spirit. In reality, it became the fire that fueled your ambition and pushed you forward. Have you ever noticed how adversity can often bring out strengths you didn't even know you had? Think about Nehemiah rebuilding Jerusalem's walls, Nehemiah 2-6. His enemies mocked and schemed to stop him, yet he pressed on. Every insult and threat only fueled his determination to complete the work. Like Nehemiah, you used every challenge as an opportunity to grow, proving to yourself and others that no amount of opposition could stop you. The beauty of it all is this: their actions laid the foundation for your success. Without their traps, would you have become as resilient, driven, or unstoppable as you are now? Every pitfall they created taught you how to navigate chaos with precision. Their betrayal became your blueprint for growth. And when they finally realized how far you had come, it was too late to stop you. Isn't it ironic how their efforts to control you only backfired? They withheld support, thinking it would shatter your confidence, but instead, it sparked something within you. You learned to clap for yourself when no one else would. You celebrated your wins in silence, and you trusted your instincts when the world turned its back. Their rejection didn't break you, It made you independent and unshakable. Then the tables turned. The success they worked so hard to block became impossible to ignore. You didn't just rise to their standards, you exceeded them. While they played gatekeeper, holding the keys to doors they thought you needed, you built something so powerful that their permission no longer mattered. Like David facing Goliath with just a sling and a stone, 1 Samuel 17, you turned the tools they dismissed into instruments of victory. Now, their opinions and recognition mean nothing. Why would it matter when you've already proven your worth? You showed them that greatness doesn't depend on the applause of others. It's built on resilience, vision, and inner strength. And now, as they scramble to acknowledge you, isn't it freeing to know you don't need their validation? You've already validated yourself. Their efforts to tear you down only made you stronger, and now they are left to watch as you rise higher than they ever dreamed possible. This is the beauty of your journey. You've shown the world and yourself that true greatness isn't granted by others. It's earned through every step, every challenge, and every victory. Number 3, they played checkers while you were mastering chess. Chosen one, they misjudged you completely. From the moment they stepped onto the board, they believed they could outsmart you with simple, predictable tactics. Their strategies were basic, short-term moves designed to win quick battles. Easy traps meant to catch you off guard. They assumed you were operating on their level, incapable of seeing beyond the immediate play in front of you. But what they failed to realize is that you weren't playing the same game at all. While they were busy making hasty moves for shallow victories, you were mastering chess, a game of foresight, patience, and ultimate control. Why do so many focus on the small, fleeting wins rather than the larger, enduring picture? Their narrow vision reminded me of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, Genesis 3. The serpent's goal was immediate, a temptation in the moment to lead Adam and Eve astray. It seemed successful at first glance, but God's plan, infinitely larger and more intricate, was already in motion. Similarly, your opponents were caught up in their immediate gains, blind to the long-term strategy you had been carefully crafting. Every move they made, you saw coming. You didn't just react, you anticipated. While they played with surface-level intent, focused on simple victories, you were quietly observing their every step, calculating the ripple effects of their choices. They thought their quick wins meant dominance, but in reality, you allowed them to think they were in control because it suited your purpose. Their arrogance was your advantage. Isn't it fascinating how overconfidence can blind people? They couldn't see that while they were focused on their temporary victories, you were positioning yourself for permanent success. Their lack of foresight became their downfall. While they celebrated minor wins, you built a foundation so solid that their fleeting victories became irrelevant. They couldn't comprehend that the game wasn't about individual moves or pieces. It was about controlling the entire board. Think about the story of Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery, believing they had secured their own dominance. In their short-sightedness, they assumed Joseph's absence was the end of his dream. What they couldn't see was that every hardship Joseph endured was preparing him for leadership in Egypt. Genesis 41:41. In the same way, your opponents thought their moves were clever, but they were actually playing right into your hands. While they were busy celebrating each trap they set for you, you were several moves ahead. Every action they took only furthered your strategy. You let them make their moves, fall into their patterns, and dig themselves deeper into the illusion of control. Their temporary successes blinded them to the larger reality. They were being outmaneuvered at every turn. Can you see how their need for immediate gratification ultimately led to their undoing? By the time they realized what was happening, you were 10 steps ahead. Their lack of patience, their inability to think long-term, and their arrogance became their undoing. They couldn't see past their own greed for victory, while you were building something far greater than they could comprehend. And when the final move came, it wasn't loud or chaotic. It didn't need to be. True mastery doesn't require a dramatic gesture. It was clean, decisive, and utterly devastating. Think about David and Goliath, 1 Samuel 17. David's victory wasn't about brute force. It was about precision, strategy, and faith. In the same way, your final move wasn't just a win, it was a declaration. You didn't just outplay them, you redefined the rules of the game itself. Now, they're left scrambling, questioning how they could have missed the signs. They can't understand how someone they underestimated so completely could have been so far ahead. They were so consumed with their small victories, their short-term schemes, that they failed to see how you were orchestrating the bigger picture all along. But here's the greatest irony. Their every move worked in your favor. They thought they were playing against you, but in truth, they were helping you build the foundation of something unstoppable. They played checkers while you mastered chess, and by the time they realized the difference, it was too late. So now, chosen one, reflect on this moment. You've proven that foresight, patience, and wisdom are more powerful than arrogance and short-sightedness. The question isn't whether you'll win, because you already have. The question is, how will you use this mastery moving forward? This is no longer about their moves. It's about your vision, your strategy, and the empire you're building. The game is yours to control. Number 4, their betrayal was the best gift they ever gave you. Chosen one, betrayal cuts deep. It feels like a knife to the soul. The lies, the disloyalty, the way they schemed behind your back. The sting of knowing someone you trusted could move against you can shake you to your core. At first, it seems like everything you believed in was ripped away. But in truth, their betrayal wasn't the end. It was a beginning, a hidden gift disguised as pain, forcing you to step into clarity and freedom. Have you ever wondered why betrayal feels so personal? It's because it exposes the gap between what you believed about someone and who they truly are. Think about the story of Peter denying Jesus. Luke 22:54-62. Peter's betrayal wasn't born of hatred, but fear. Even though he denied Jesus 3 times, that moment of betrayal ultimately served a greater purpose in Peter's journey. It forced him to confront his own weaknesses and grow into the rock upon which the church was built. Similarly, the betrayal you faced revealed what you needed to see, not just about them, but about yourself. At first, their actions hurt. The lies, the whispers, the deliberate moves to undermine you, it all felt personal, like the ground beneath your feet had been pulled out from under you. But as the dust settled, you began to see the truth. Their betrayal wasn't a loss, it was an unmasking. It exposed the relationships in your life that weren't built to last. Have you ever asked yourself why some connections seem to fall apart when you're on the verge of a breakthrough? Often it's because those relationships were never meant to go where you're headed. This wasn't your failure, it was their truth finally coming to light. Why does betrayal have such a profound way of shifting our perspective? It's because it forces us to look beyond the surface. Their disloyalty made you realize that some people were only meant to be in your life for a season. And that's okay. Just like when Paul and Barnabas parted ways after a disagreement, Acts 15:36-40. It wasn't about failure, it was about growth. Sometimes separation is necessary for the mission ahead. They thought their betrayal would leave you desperate, isolated and broken, but in reality, it gave you something far greater. You realized you didn't need their half-hearted loyalty, their conditional support, or their hidden agendas. Their actions gave you the strength to cut the dead weight from your life, freeing you to move forward with clarity and purpose. When was the last time you stopped to evaluate who truly belongs in your life? Their betrayal sharpened your discernment. You began to see the difference between those who genuinely supported you and those who only stuck around for their own benefit. Just as God told Gideon to pare down his army before battle, reducing it from 32,000 to 300, Judges 7:17, you learned that sometimes less is more. By removing the wrong people, you created space for the right ones to enter your life. And the irony, what they meant to hurt you became the very thing that empowered you. Their betrayal was the turning point that set you free from the chains of false connections. You became sharper, stronger, and more focused. While they were busy congratulating themselves for what they thought was their victory, you were rising above, unburdened and unstoppable. Do you see how their betrayal worked in your favor? What they intended as harm ended up being the gift of clarity. Their actions taught you the most valuable lesson. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone is meant to walk alongside you on your path. They gave you the insight to see who truly belongs in your life and who doesn't. Think about the betrayal of Samson by Delilah, Judges 16:18-21. Delilah's disloyalty led to Samson's capture and humiliation. But even in his lowest moment, Samson found strength. In his final act, he brought down the temple on his enemies, turning what seemed like a devastating defeat into a moment of triumph. Isn't it remarkable how betrayal can serve as a catalyst for growth and transformation? The betrayal you experienced wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your rise. You owe them nothing now. Not your trust, your loyalty, or even your attention. They thought they were tearing you down, but in reality, they handed you the tools to rebuild yourself into someone stronger and freer. The beauty of their betrayal is that it gave you the freedom to walk away from what no longer served you. Now, as you stand stronger than ever, you can see their betrayal for what it truly was, a gift that revealed the truth, set you free, and positioned you for greatness. Have you noticed how their absence has brought you more peace than their presence ever did? They thought they were breaking you, but all along they were helping you become unshakable. And now, chosen one, you are unstoppable. Number 5, you didn't confront them, you outclassed them. Chosen one, they craved chaos. They were counting on you to react, to meet their anger with anger, to descend into confrontation, or to give them the dramatic showdown they so desperately desired. Conflict was their weapon, their comfort zone. They believed they could drag you into their mess, pull you down to their level, and entangle you in the chaos they created. But you didn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, you made a powerful choice. They played petty games, and you outclassed them entirely. Have you ever wondered why people thrive on conflict? It's because it feeds their ego, giving them a false sense of importance. Think about Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, Nehemiah 6:1-9. His enemies repeatedly tried to distract him, sending messages to draw him into pointless meetings meant to derail his mission. Nehemiah's reply was unwavering. "I'm doing a great work, and I cannot come down." Like Nehemiah, you saw the bigger picture. You understood that engaging with them would not resolve anything. It would only validate their schemes and give them a platform they didn't deserve. So you stayed silent. You kept your head high and poured your energy into your mission. While they were busy spreading rumors, playing petty games, or plotting against you, you were building something far beyond their comprehension. Isn't it powerful how focusing on your goals silences the noise around you? Every step forward you took became a loud and undeniable statement. I'm focused on my purpose, and you are irrelevant. Their confusion made your victory even sweeter. They couldn't understand why you didn't fight back, why you didn't defend yourself, or why you didn't engage. It frustrated them because they thrive on conflict, and you gave them nothing to fuel their fire. By the time they realized what you were doing, it was already too late. They were too busy being distracted by their own games to notice you were creating an empire. Doesn't this remind you of Jesus during his trial? When faced with false accusations and mocking, he remained silent. Matthew 27:12-14. He didn't need to argue or justify himself because his purpose was already clear. In the same way, you didn't need to explain yourself. Your actions and success spoke louder than any defense ever could. Every achievement you reached, every goal you accomplished, every milestone you celebrated was a quiet yet undeniable declaration. You were never on my level. While they were trying to pull you into their chaos, you were rising far above it. Your focus, resilience, and refusal to engage left them stunned. Isn't it amazing how choosing not to fight can be the ultimate power move? By not reacting, you didn't just win, you dismantled their entire approach. You rose so far above them that their petty games became irrelevant. The ultimate victory wasn't in proving them wrong. It was in showing that they didn't matter in the first place. Think of David's response to his older brother Eliab's provocation before facing Goliath. 1 Samuel 17-28-30. Eliab tried to belittle David, mocking him and questioning his motives. David didn't argue or engage in petty conflict. Instead, he redirected his focus to the task at hand, facing Goliath. Like David, you refused to waste energy on those who tried to provoke you. Your attention stayed on your goals, and that focus became your strength. And now, chosen one, they are left with nothing but the echo of their own pettiness. They can't argue with your success. They can't undermine what you've built. Their games, which once seemed so clever, now look meaningless against the backdrop of your accomplishments. Have you noticed how their small temporary wins have faded into nothing compared to the lasting impact you're creating? They thought they could pull you down, but you rose so far above them that their opinions and actions are now irrelevant. You didn't confront them because you didn't need to. You outclassed them in every way. So as you move forward, remember this. True strength lies in knowing when not to fight. By choosing focus, resilience, and wisdom, you've proven that your elevation is the ultimate triumph. Let them remain stuck in the chaos they created, while you continue to rise higher than they ever imagined. Your victory isn't just a moment, it's a legacy. Number 6, they relied on your kindness, thinking it was weakness. Chosen one, they misunderstood you. They looked at your kindness, your compassion, your willingness to forgive, and your unshakable patience, and assumed it was weakness. They believed they could manipulate your good nature, exploit your generosity, and walk all over you without consequence. In their minds, kindness was naivety, and restraint was ignorance. But what they didn't realize is this: your kindness was never a lack of awareness. It was a choice, a deliberate, controlled decision born from strength, not fragility. Why do people mistake kindness for weakness? It's because they don't understand the depth of true strength. Consider Moses, one of the meekest men on earth. Numbers 12:3. His meekness wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a reflection of his profound self-control and reliance on God's strength. Like Moses, your ability to remain kind despite their actions wasn't a failure. It was a demonstration of your mastery over your emotions and reactions. At first, you allowed them to believe they were succeeding. You saw their manipulations, recognized their intentions, and still chose not to react. Why? Because you understood the power of restraint. You knew that engaging with their behavior would only validate their actions. Their schemes, their pettiness, and their attempts to undermine you didn't deserve the energy of your response. Have you ever considered how much strength it takes to remain calm in the face of betrayal? Kindness wasn't a sign of surrender, it was control. Your silence wasn't born of fear, but of wisdom. You understood that their actions said far more about them than they ever could about you. Like Jesus on the cross, when he prayed for those who crucified him, saying, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Luke 23:34. Your restraint was rooted in a higher understanding. You knew that their betrayal didn't define you, it defined them. But when they crossed the line, when they mistook your kindness for surrender and your silence for defeat, you reminded them exactly who they were dealing with. You didn't lash out or lower yourself to their level. Instead, you chose to reclaim your power in the most effective way possible. You shifted your focus, withdrew your energy, and cut off their access to you entirely. Isn't it incredible how silence can be louder than words? They didn't see it coming. The same person they thought they could exploit became the one they could no longer reach. You flipped the script with a quiet, unstoppable force. You didn't shout, argue, or engage in their chaos. You simply made a decision, and that decision left them reeling. Think about Joseph and his brothers. His kindness toward them, even after their betrayal, was not born from weakness, but from a place of power and forgiveness. Genesis 50:19-21. Joseph's ability to show compassion wasn't because he had forgotten what they did, it was because he had risen above it. In the same way, your kindness wasn't your vulnerability, it was your strength. By the time they realized what had happened, it was too late. The person they thought they could manipulate was gone, replaced by someone they could no longer control. Your kindness wasn't your weakness, it was your advantage. You chose when to give it, and you chose when to take it back. That's where your true power lies. Not in how much you gave, but in knowing when to stop. And now, they're left realizing the truth. They thought they were taking advantage of you, but all along, you were in control. Your kindness was never for them, it was for you. It was a reflection of your strength, your wisdom, and your ability to rise above their actions. So, chosen one, reflect on this. What does it mean to be kind while setting boundaries? You've learned that kindness doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means choosing to give compassion on your terms, not theirs. They wanted to exploit you, but they ended up teaching you the greatest lesson of all. Not everyone is worthy of your generosity. As you move forward, let this be your truth. Your kindness is your strength, your control, and your power. And now they are left on the outside, watching as you continue to rise, stronger and freer than ever. They thought they could take advantage of you, but they didn't realize that your power has always been in knowing exactly when to walk away. Number 7. You let them think they were winning until they weren't. Chosen one, they moved with arrogance, their confidence swelling with every sly comment, every sneaky maneuver. They thought they were outsmarting you. They believed they had you cornered, assuming you couldn't see the bigger picture. But the truth? You saw it all. You recognized their schemes, their manipulations, and their intent from the very beginning. While they were busy playing their shallow games, you were silently observing, patiently waiting, and calculating your every move. Why do people so often confuse silence with ignorance? It's because they believe arrogance makes them untouchable. Think about Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Your adversaries were blinded by their own pride. They mistook your silence for weakness, unaware that their arrogance would be their undoing. Every move they made, every trap they set, only pulled them closer to their own downfall. Instead of confronting them, you chose patience. You let them carry on, confident in their perceived superiority. Why? Because you understood the value of restraint. You knew that every decision they made out of arrogance would eventually lead to their failure. They believed they were building a trap for you, but in reality, they were digging a pit for themselves. Isn't it incredible how arrogance can blind people to the truth? They couldn't see how predictable their behavior had become. They thought they were being clever, but you had already anticipated every move. Your patience wasn't about giving up. It was about giving them enough rope to tie themselves up. Just like Psalm 7:15 says, "Whoever digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit they have made." That's exactly what happened. Their own actions, their own decisions became the cause of their downfall. While they celebrated small, meaningless victories, you stayed calm and steady, focused on the bigger picture. You didn't rush to confront them or expose their schemes prematurely, because you knew the timing had to be right. And when the time came, it wasn't chaotic or dramatic. It was simple, clean, and undeniable. Their plans unraveled before their eyes, and they were left scrambling, desperate to shift the blame. But there was no one else to blame. The consequences were theirs alone. Do you see how powerful patience and silence can be? Think about Jesus during his trial before the high priest and Pilate. Matthew 26:62-63, John 19:8-11. When questioned, mocked, and accused, he remained silent. His silence wasn't weakness, it was control. He knew that every word spoken would feed into their agenda, so he chose to say nothing. Similarly, your silence wasn't ignorance, it was strategy. You knew that speaking too soon would validate their schemes, so you let their actions speak for themselves. By the time they realized what had happened, the game was already over. They underestimated your patience and mistook your silence for ignorance. But your silence was never ignorance, it was wisdom. They believed they were winning because you allowed them to think so. You let them walk into their own traps, and when the moment came, their arrogance sealed their fate. Now they are left to reflect on their defeat, wondering how they could have missed the signs. But the truth is, they never stood a chance. You were always 10 steps ahead, watching as they sabotaged themselves. This wasn't just a win for you, it was a testament to your strength, resilience, and unwavering focus. Chosen one, doesn't it feel empowering to know you never needed to lower yourself to their level? You didn't fight on their terms or give them the satisfaction of a confrontation. Instead, you let their own arrogance be their undoing. Like the wisdom of Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. You understood that the time to act wasn't in the chaos of their schemes, but in the clarity of their consequences. Your patience, your strategy, and your ability to stay above the noise are what truly set you apart. They thought they were winning, but they didn't realize you were the one controlling the game all along. Let their failure serve as a reminder. Silence, patience, and wisdom are the most powerful tools you can wield. And as you continue to rise, stronger and wiser than before, they are left in the shadows of their own arrogance, watching as you thrive beyond their reach. Number 8, their gossip couldn't touch you. Why didn't? Because your name holds too much weight. Chosen one, they thought their gossip could break you. They believed that their whispers, their petty rumors, and their relentless attempts to tarnish your reputation would plant seeds of doubt in the minds of others. In their arrogance, they reveled in the thought that their words could diminish your worth or make you crumble under the weight of their lies. But what they failed to understand was this: your name carries too much weight to be shaken by idle gossip. Have you ever noticed how those who gossip the loudest often accomplish the least? Their time is spent crafting stories about others because they lack the strength to create anything meaningful for themselves. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit." While their tongues were busy spinning webs of deceit, you were sowing seeds of life through your actions, your integrity, and your unrelenting progress. While they were busy fabricating stories, dragging your name through the mud, you had no time for their noise. Your focus wasn't on defending yourself, it was on building something unshakable. You understood that your worth wasn't defined by the words of others, but by your character, your consistency, and the results you delivered. Isn't it powerful to know that you don't need to chase rumors, because the truth of who you are speaks louder than anything they could ever say? Think of Nehemiah again, Nehemiah 6:5-9. His enemies spread false letters, hoping to ruin his reputation and stop his work. But Nehemiah didn't waste time arguing or defending himself. Instead, he prayed for strength and kept building. Like him, you understood that engaging with their gossip would only distract you from your purpose. Your actions, your achievements, and your unyielding focus were your response. Every success you achieved, every milestone you reached, added weight to your name and silenced their whispers. While they wasted their energy on rumors, you were making moves. Their gossip couldn't define you because it was built on empty words, while your legacy was built on tangible evidence. They had lies. You had receipts. Clear, undeniable proof of your growth, resilience, and impact. Their stories faded into irrelevance in the shadow of your accomplishments. Psalm 37:6 reminds us, "He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun." And that's exactly what happened. Your progress became your vindication. Isn't it ironic how gossip often backfires? While they tried to drag your name down, your results elevated you even higher. The weight of your achievements drowned out their whispers. People who mattered didn't listen to the noise because they could see the truth in your actions. Your consistency, your integrity, and your ability to rise above the drama made it clear who you truly were. And when the dust settled, you didn't need to say a word. Your success was the loudest statement, your progress the clearest proof. They thought their gossip would define you, but in the end, it only defined them. They wasted their time trying to tear you down while you invested your time building something they couldn't touch. Think about Jesus' reputation during his ministry. Many tried to slander him, calling him a blasphemer, a drunkard, and worse, Matthew 11:19. But his actions, his miracles, his teachings, and his unwavering mission spoke louder than their accusations. His name held weight not because of what others said, but because of what he did. Like him, your work, your character, and your unwavering focus became the loudest argument against their gossip. Now, chosen one, reflect on this. Isn't it liberating to know that your truth isn't tied to the opinions of others? Their gossip was powerless against the reality of your accomplishments. You didn't need to defend yourself or engage in their games, because the truth was already evident in the foundation you built with your own two hands. As you move forward, remember this: their words will always fade, but your legacy is permanent. Gossip can never touch the unshakable truth of who you are and what you've achieved. Let them talk while you continue to rise, unbothered and unstoppable. Your name holds too much weight to be dragged down by whispers. And that, chosen one, is why their words will never have the power to define you. Number 9, you flipped the script and made them the supporting cast in your story. Chosen one, they truly believed they were the stars of your story. They carried themselves as if the entire narrative revolved around them, as if their schemes, manipulations, and actions would determine how your story ended. They saw themselves as the puppet masters pulling the strings, expecting your downfall to be their grand finale. But what they didn't understand was that you were the one holding the pen. You were the author all along. And by the time you were done rewriting the script, They were no longer the protagonists. They were merely background characters, relegated to the supporting cast in a story they could never control. Have you ever wondered why some people are so desperate to control the narratives of others? It's because they feel powerless over their own lives. Their attempts to undermine you were never about your weakness. It was about their insecurity. Proverbs 21:30 tells us, "There is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord." While they tried to write the story of your defeat, they failed to see that their plans would never stand against the purpose placed on your life. They worked tirelessly, believing they were the main characters, convinced that their moves would dictate the outcome of your journey. Every scheme, every insult, every attempt to pull the spotlight onto themselves was a step they thought would bring them closer to victory. But what they didn't realize was that you were watching. You let them believe they were in control because you understood the value of patience. You didn't resist their attempts to steer the plot. Instead, you allowed them to carry on, knowing that their arrogance would ultimately lead to their irrelevance. Isn't it remarkable how those who try to control others often lose control of themselves? They wasted so much time trying to undermine you that they failed to see how their actions were only pushing you closer to your next breakthrough. Every move they made to hurt you became fuel for your growth. Every obstacle they placed in your path became a stepping stone. While they were busy crafting what they thought was your downfall, you were quietly using their actions to build your rise. Think of Joseph in Genesis 45:4-8. His brothers sold him into slavery, thinking they were erasing him from their story. But God used their actions for good. Joseph rose to power in Egypt and ultimately became the one who saved his brothers during a famine. Like Joseph, you understood that their schemes, no matter how cruel or calculated, would never have the final say. What they intended to harm you, you turned into the foundation for your elevation. Their narrative fell apart because they underestimated you. They thought they were crafting your story, but all the while you were rewriting the plot. You flipped the script so completely that by the time they realized what had happened, they were no longer part of the main plot. The story shifted from their petty attempts at control to your undeniable rise. They went from antagonists to irrelevant footnotes in the grand narrative of your success. Think about Haman in the book of Esther 7. He plotted Mordecai's downfall, building gallows for him, believing that his schemes would cement his power. But in a dramatic twist, Haman's own plot led to his demise, and Mordecai was elevated to a position of honor. Just like Haman, your adversaries thought they were in control, but their plans became the very means through which you rose above them. By the time the dust settled, you had outgrown them entirely. Their relevance faded, their actions became meaningless, and their schemes were forgotten. All that remained was the foundation you built with your own two hands, a legacy they could never touch. While they were scrambling for relevance, you were stepping fully into your role as the undeniable lead. Isn't it liberating to know that their efforts to control your narrative only ended up elevating yours? While they wasted their time and energy trying to write you out of the story, you were crafting a legacy that spoke for itself. They thought they were writing your ending, but instead they had no place in the story at all. Reflect on this. Chosen one, your story is yours to write. Their gossip, schemes, and attempts to control you are powerless in the face of your purpose. Psalm 37:23 reminds us, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him." Your steps were always guided, always secure, no matter how much they tried to throw you off course. Now, as you stand center stage, they are left watching from the shadows. Their role is over, their influence diminished, and their relevance gone. You've reclaimed the narrative, proving once and for all that the power to define your story was always in your hands. Let this serve as a reminder. You are not just the lead in your story. You are the author, the director, and the driving force. And as your story continues to unfold, their chapter has closed for good. Number 10. They tried to outshine you, but you were the light source. Chosen one, they thought they could overshadow you. They believed their tricks, their calculated moves, and their desperate attempts to grab attention would make them the brightest light in the room. They acted as if their fabricated glow could diminish your radiance. But what they didn't understand is this: you were never just a part of the scene, you were the source of the light. Everything they chased, everything they tried to replicate, originated from you. Have you ever noticed how those who seek the spotlight so desperately often miss the fact that true brilliance cannot be forced? Their efforts to outshine you didn't make them brighter. Instead, they highlighted the emptiness of their attempts. Remember John 1:5. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Your light wasn't something they could compete with. It was something that stood on its own, unshaken by their attempts to throw shade. As they tried to steal your spotlight, they only made it clearer where the real power resided. Every move they made, every subtle act of sabotage, only reinforced the truth. Without your radiance, there was no light for them to reflect. Do you see how their actions only validated your strength? While they were busy trying to dim your shine, you kept glowing, showing that true light doesn't depend on others for its source. It's innate, undeniable, and unshakable. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt someone try to diminish your worth, only to realize their efforts made your brilliance even more apparent? Their attempts to overshadow you only revealed their dependency on your presence. Like the Pharisees trying to trap Jesus with clever words, Matthew 22:15-22, their efforts backfired because the truth was too strong to manipulate. Your light isn't about seeking validation or proving anything. It's about authenticity. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts because you carry something they cannot replicate. You didn't need to compete or engage in their petty games. You didn't need to outshine them because your glow naturally commanded attention. Their attempts only served to show how artificial their light was in comparison. Doesn't it feel liberating to realize that their efforts to overshadow you were never a threat? While they scrambled for relevance, you simply stood in your truth. They couldn't dim what they didn't create. Your radiance wasn't just brighter, it was untouchable. And by the time they realized they were chasing a reflection, it was too late. The spotlight had already shifted, leaving them in the shadow of your brilliance. Number 11. You didn't expose them. You exposed yourself to greater heights. Chosen one, they thought you would stoop to their level. They expected you to engage in petty revenge, to waste your time dragging them down, or to focus your energy on exposing their faults. In their minds, they were waiting for a battle of words, for you to retaliate in a way that would validate their drama. But what they didn't anticipate was this: you didn't waste a single moment on them. You didn't expose their flaws. Instead, you exposed yourself to greater heights, to bigger possibilities, to undeniable success. Have you ever realized how empowering it is to choose growth over grudges? While they were waiting for you to react, you were busy building. Romans 12:21 says, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." You channeled your energy into something far more valuable than conflict. You didn't fight their fire with fire. You built a fortress that stood far above their reach. Instead of getting tangled in their negativity, you focused on your goals. You didn't need to prove them wrong through words, because every step you took forward spoke louder than any argument ever could. Isn't it incredible how success has a way of silencing the noise? With every milestone you reached, you not only proved to them, but also to yourself that you were above their games. So, have you ever felt the weight of someone doubting you, only to use it as fuel to prove them, and even yourself, wrong? Like David rising to prominence while Saul's jealousy consumed him, 1 Samuel 18-24. You didn't retaliate against their attacks, you simply grew beyond their reach. Your rise wasn't about revenge, it was about purpose. As you soared to new heights, they were forced to watch. They thought they had the upper hand, but your silence, your focus, and your achievements told a different story. While they were stuck in their drama, you were building an empire brick by brick. By the time they realized what was happening, it was already too late. They weren't part of the story anymore. Have you noticed how those who try to drag you down often end up left behind? Like Joseph, who didn't waste energy on revenge against his brothers but rose to power and saved them instead. Genesis 50:20. You chose to rise instead of retaliate, and that decision became your ultimate triumph. Now, chosen one, reflect on this. Isn't the greatest revenge living a life so full of growth, success, and purpose that those who tried to harm you become irrelevant? You didn't expose them because you didn't need to. Your rise, your accomplishments, and your strength were all the proof the world needed. In the end, they were left watching from the sidelines, while you stepped fully into your potential. Let their actions fade into the background. Your story isn't about them, it's about you, your resilience, and your undeniable greatness. And as you continue to rise, remember this: the greatest revenge isn't dragging someone down, it's lifting yourself so high that they can't even reach you. Number 12. You didn't just prove them wrong, you redefined what winning looks like. Chosen one, they thought they had life all figured out. They believed their narrow, conventional blueprint for success was the only path forward. They assumed their targets, milestones, and carefully crafted rules would ensure they came out on top. But here's what they never saw coming. You weren't following their blueprint. You weren't bound by their limited definition of success. Instead, you broke the mold entirely, proving that winning isn't about fitting into someone else's rules. It's about rewriting them. Have you ever wondered why some people are so obsessed with controlling the narrative of success? It's because they fear stepping outside their comfort zone. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." While they were leaning on their shallow understanding of achievement, you trusted in something greater: your vision, your purpose, and your ability to rise above their expectations. They measured success by superficial milestones, titles, applause, or fleeting recognition. But you weren't interested in their version of success. You weren't chasing empty accolades or playing by their rules. Instead, you created a path that was uniquely yours, setting goals so bold they couldn't even fathom them. Isn't it incredible how freeing it is to step outside the box they tried to put you in? Every step forward you took wasn't just about proving them wrong, it was about expanding what success could look like. While they focused on checking boxes, you were building something lasting, something that went beyond superficial wins. Your achievements weren't just about reaching the top of their ladder. You created an entirely new peak. And by the time they realized what had happened, their outdated definition of success had already become irrelevant. Do you ever stop to consider how powerful it is to redefine the game instead of playing it? While they were busy trying to outdo each other, you were focused on something much bigger. You didn't need their validation or approval, because your wins weren't measured by their standards. Every obstacle you overcame and every goal you reached added depth and substance to your journey. True success isn't about meeting their expectations, it's about surpassing them entirely. Think about the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000, Matthew 14:13-21. The disciples believed the situation was hopeless because they were limited by what they could see, 5 loaves and 2 fish. But Jesus redefined what was possible, showing that when faith and vision come together, miracles happen. Similarly, your journey wasn't about meeting conventional expectations. It was about creating something extraordinary, something they never believed could exist. By the time they realized what you were doing, it was too late. They were stuck chasing outdated goals while you were rewriting the playbook. Their attempts to measure success by their shallow metrics only highlighted how far behind they were. Have you noticed how those who try to define success for others often fail to see their own limits? Your vision, determination, and ability to rise above their limitations left them in awe. Now, as you stand at the top of a peak they never even imagined, they're left watching in disbelief. What does success mean to you? Is it applause from others or the fulfillment of a vision that comes from within? Philippians 4:13 reminds us, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." You drew strength from within and above, allowing you to rise higher than their expectations could ever reach. You didn't just win, you transformed, you redefined success, created a new standard, and proved that your strength lies in your vision, your resilience, and your unwavering belief in what you can achieve. This isn't just about reaching the top. It's about creating new heights, new possibilities, and a legacy they could never touch. You didn't just rewrite the rules, you rewrote the future, and that chosen one is why they're left in your wake, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what you've achieved. Beloved chosen one, your journey has been nothing short of remarkable. They underestimated you, they misjudged your strength, and they thought they could break you. But with every challenge they threw your way, you rose higher. You didn't just survive their schemes, you turned them into stepping stones. You proved that true power doesn't come from playing their games or reacting to their noise. It comes from knowing who you are, trusting in your purpose, and walking the path God has laid out for you. Your story is a testament to resilience, wisdom, and faith. You didn't just win, you transformed the definition of victory. Every step you've taken has shown that when you trust in the higher plan, no amount of opposition can derail you. You weren't naive, you were calculating. You weren't weak, you were patient. And in the end, you didn't just show them who's the boss, you reminded yourself of the unshakable power within you. Now, I invite you to reflect on your own journey. What have you turned around in your life? How have you shown the world that you're not just surviving, but thriving? If this message resonates with you, if it inspires you to keep moving forward, I encourage you to support this platform by donating through Super Thanks. Your generosity helps us continue to create content that uplifts, empowers, and inspires God's chosen ones to step fully into their purpose. To everyone who has donated already, I want to take a moment to thank you. Your support means the world, and it allows us to reach more people with messages of hope, strength, and encouragement. You're not just helping this community grow, you're sowing seeds that will continue to inspire others for years to come. As we close, I want to leave you with a blessing. May you continue to walk in the light of your calling. May God's favor surround you, His wisdom guide you, and His strength sustain you as you face every challenge ahead. Remember, you are chosen for a reason, and no weapon formed against you will prosper. Isaiah 54:17. Stay strong, chosen ones, and keep shining your light. Your best chapters are still being written, and they are filled with victory, purpose, and endless possibilities. God bless you all.